Just a week ago, after over a year, a new top 1 was finally verified. After tens of thousands of attempts, Tidal Wave was finally verified by the same guy who verified Acheron, Zoink, who has now verified the entire top 3. This is too much power for one person. However, opinions on this level are very mixed, as a lot of criticisms of the level are pretty widespread, such as the decoration is too simple, or that the object count is too high, while other people praise it for being a longer top 1, which is not something we have seen pretty much since Zodiac, and its uniqueness and theming. So with all this in mind, which one of these two is a better top 1 hardest level in all of Geometry Dash? If you enjoyed today's video, please remember to like and subscribe. It helps out the channel a ton, and you'll see more content like this. Without further ado, let's get into the video. So making this level comparison was a little more difficult than ones I've done in the past with Edge of Destiny and Cosmos, or Avernus and Amethyst, or even way back when I compared Tartarus to Acheron, because these two levels don't really have anything in common except for the fact that they're both top 1s. I mean, part of why there's so much discourse around Tidal Wave is because it is very different to a lot of top 1s that we get in the game. Just like with similar videos previously, I'll split each level into several categories with decoration, theming, originality, song, and gameplay, and then the winner of each category gets a point and so on. And I'm going to start with decoration because it's the most complicated. So in terms of decoration, I want to make it clear I don't think either one of these levels are necessarily bad. I do of course still have criticisms for both levels, but that doesn't mean that I think either one of them is like overall bad decoration. I think Acheron tends to be a bit more boring because it's a 1.9 style that we've seen in a lot of levels, especially Riot levels recently, and it doesn't really feel like it's themed around anything, while I can also understand the argument against Tidal Wave saying that it's a bit basic in terms of its decoration, which I disagree with, but there are some parts of the level that are a bit more empty, mostly transitions in between parts. Acheron's decoration is definitely more polished than Tidal Wave's is. It has a very consistent quality, and a lot of its flaws are covered up by the fact that it's darker in some areas of the level and also pulses a lot to try to keep things interesting. Especially within the limits of only using 1.9 objects, this level does a really good job of staying relatively fresh, at least compared to Tartarus, or other 1.9 levels that we see more often these days. Whereas Tidal Wave also does a really good job of staying fresh throughout a 3-minute duration. It uses several opposing colors, like the yellow hues and the blue hues used throughout the level. There's a mix between parts of the level that have more of an ocean background and parts of the level that also sort of have like a sandy background that's more beachy and has the sun visible, which I think is really cool and overall adds to the fact that this level has a lot more variety than Acheron does in terms of decoration, while also staying consistent within its theming, which Acheron doesn't really have much of. However, there are some parts of Tidal Wave that don't have enough decoration, in sense that there's pretty much just the background and then the foreground is like 2 orbs or something. This is mostly an issue in some of the transition parts between, for example, the really intense wave parts and other parts of the level like the duel or the more slower paced parts, even though the whole level's fast paced, but whatever. Which would seem out of place considering that the level overall has a pretty high object count compared to Acheron and most levels in the game. However, I will cut some slack considering that this is, at the end of the day, pretty much a solo level, and while I do really like the decoration, I do think it lacks a bit of polishing. Because I think Acheron and Tidal Wave both really succeed in their different styles, I will give both of them 1 point for decoration, but I'm going to give Acheron a 2nd point for polish. It seemed pretty unfair to me to put Acheron above Tidal Wave completely without giving Tidal Wave any credit, because Tidal Wave does have really good decoration, and I would prefer it to Acheron's. And while I do find Acheron less interesting and less innovative, it does do what it's trying to do pretty well, even if it's not really trying to do much. And it's definitely more polished. What it does not do well, though, is theming. I think we already know which of these two levels is going to win in terms of which one is better themed, but let me just give sort of an explanation. Tidal Wave's theming is very good, very original, not something that we pretty much see in any Extreme Demons, or even levels in general, for that matter. It's very unique and also pretty well executed theming that we don't really see much in Extreme Demons, especially the hardest demons in the game, which are usually just made for some free brownie points and views, with the same formula as every previous hardest level before it. The issue I have with Acheron's quote-unquote theming is that it doesn't really have any strong theming, and if it does have any theming, it's not very good. When Acheron was first revealed, a lot of people just considered it the Tartarus sequel because it was made by the same people, had relatively similar decoration, with the only major difference being that there's a bit more detail throughout the level, and there was more grayscale instead of red decoration. And then Riot was like, well actually it's not a sequel, and then pretty much the entire community patted him on the back and was like, okay, let's get back to bed, Grandpa. The point is, Acheron is a lot like Tartarus, but technically it should shouldn't have a reason to be a lot like Tartarus other than just the fact that it has pretty similar creators like Riot, because hey, technically it's not a Tartarus sequel, guys. So the theming for Acheron is kind of a weird semantic vacuum, because some people would consider it a hell level because technically it does have some red sprinkled throughout the level. Some people like me just sort of consider it, at least mentally, to be a Tartarus sequel because it sounds way cooler like that than saying that it's what, like a sister level or whatever within the Riot cinematic metaverse. But I think overall there isn't much of a case for Acheron to have specific theming at all, and if there is one that's even remotely strong or holds any water, you could say, I guess, that it's hell-themed, which is so common in top 1s that we celebrate when a level isn't hell-themed. So yeah, it's pretty obvious Tidal Wave wins a point for this. Next up is originality. Now, while Acheron does use a style of decoration that has been used a lot, it still does keep things fresh compared to Tartarus in that most of the decoration throughout the level is more grayscale instead of red, which is used more sparingly throughout the level, which makes it more interesting to look at or to play. And some of the gameplay is kind of original, like the sort of clubstep monster head maze in the first cube, but its originality is pretty marginal compared to Tidal Wave. Like I've said before several times throughout the video, Tidal Wave has a theme that we don't see very much of. It's a longer extreme demon, which makes it a bit more accessible, which hasn't been something we've seen as a top 1 for quite some time. Hate to break it to you, but we're only really a few months away from Zodiac's verification being half a decade ago, and this quality of Tidal Wave as a new top 1 has not gone unnoticed. So overall, I will say Tidal Wave is more original than Acheron. Again, more or less of a slam dunk. Okay, now for the part of the video that will definitely garner the most hate towards me from the entire community as a whole. Warning, the following opinion might not also be your opinion, and therefore, if you can't handle that, you should probably click off the video now. I mean, not before you leave a like and subscribe. Acheron has a better song than Tidal Wave. I do not care what anyone says, Thermodynamics is an underrated bop, and I need to see it in more levels. It is amazing, it is Djjaner's best work, it is awesome, I love it. I don't care that it's kind of dubstep, I love it. Tidal Wave's song isn't half bad, but it low-key gives me NCS vibes, and it cannot compare to the sheer, raw power of Thermodynamics by Djjaner. I mean this sincerely, if anyone is making some sort of demon that's not an extreme demon within the near future and wants a song recommendation, Thermodynamics. We need more Thermodynamics levels. Tidal Wave song isn't bad, but Acheron's song just goes way too hard, and if there's one thing that you'll know about me if you've been on this channel for long enough, it's that I like it when things are hard. So we're now at a tie, with both levels having 3 points, with the only thing left being gameplay. Obviously, I am not good enough at the game to judge which one of these is more fun, but let's be honest, if you're trying to beat something in the top 5 or even in the top 10 these days, you're not going to look for something that's enjoyable. It's just which one sucks the least, and that's going to vary for different people. But what I will say is that Tidal Wave is a lot longer than Acheron, and therefore might be more accessible to more players who aren't quite as good to make some progress on Acheron, in which the difficulty is concentrated into a much shorter level. And for that reason, Tidal Wave gets the final point, meaning that it wins 4-3. So yeah, that's it for today's video. If you did like the video, please remember to like and subscribe, helps out the channel, yada yada, you get the idea. I promised I'd make a serious video on Tidal Wave because last week I pretty much just uploaded the meme video about it, and I do think that it is better top 1 than Acheron, even if the difference isn't too much. Comment down below which one you think is a better top 1, but please remember to be respectful of each other's opinions in the comments. If you want to argue about it more, you can join my Discord server, link is in the description, and yeah, thanks for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye!